Hi, welcome back to the Launch Point Leader Podcast. My name's Lori.
And I'm Beau.
We're so excited to be back here another week to share with you a letter that a listener has written into us about a real life scenario that they've been going through for us to give some input and advice. If you're listening out there and have a similar situation or something different you want to share, you can always visit our website at launchpointleader.com. We'll get right into it. Our letter today says, Dear Launch Point, there's this woman at work. She's in a higher role than me, but she's not my boss.
Stop. You know it's going to be good if they start the letter with, there's this woman at work.
We should save like our favorite bits of all the letters. And there's this woman at work.
Yeah, that might be my number one
good
at this
the
point.
List.
Okay, so we'll restart. Yeah. There's a letter and there's a woman at work.
There's a woman at work.
Okay, all right.
She's in a higher role than me, but she is not my boss. Still very strong sentence.
Okay.
Every time I bring forward an idea or take ownership of a new project, she steps in, not to collaborate, but to take over. She inserts herself into my responsibilities, makes decisions that should be mine, and takes control of pieces of my work without asking. It's not that she's claiming the ideas as her own, she's just overstepping consistently, and it leaves me second-guessing a role I've worked hard to try to own. To make things more complicated, my actual boss doesn't like her either, which makes every interaction feel political.
Okay.
Like, if I say something, I'm stirring the pot. But if I say quiet, I'm just disappearing in plain sight. And the thing is, she's very good at what she does. I see that. I respect it. But so am I. I want the room to grow, lead, and be trusted. I don't need her to prove she's capable by doing my job too. I'm not trying to compete. I just want to contribute and be trusted to do the work I was hired to do. Signed, capable, but crowded out.
I don't know that we can unpack everything
There's a lot going on
There's
here.
a ton.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
great letter though.
Just kind of know we're going to scratch the surface potentially. I guess my first question maybe to you and try to help me figure this out is she says, I think it's she, yes. Yeah. Or somebody, she says, my boss actually doesn't like her. How do they know that?
Like, it's got to be from an interaction, right? Without knowing the full story. It almost seems to me as if this person has done the first step of trying to take it to their direct boss. Okay. And then whether from outright, a little inappropriate, but saying like, oh, well, that's just the way she is, whatever. Yeah. Or they can just tell from that response is my guess. And so when she doesn't feel like she's getting anywhere productive when she's bringing that up.
That's fair. Yeah. I think the thing that came to my mind was, if I am the writer of this note to us, I am probably looking for my job description as it was given to me, and hopefully there's published job descriptions for everybody in the organization that this person has access to. But even if they don't, I'd take my job description and go meet with my supervisor and just say, hey, here's what you wanted me to do. Here's what I agreed to do. Here's what I'm doing. Here's some traffic that is getting in the way of me completing my job description. And I just want to make sure that I know from you if this is still what you need me to do, or if that's now transferred to this, quote, woman at work. And if it has not transferred to her, then I think it is very appropriate for the writer of this note to look at their boss and say, if all of these things are true and what I am doing is what you need me to do, but I've got traffic, I really need your help in clearing that traffic out and navigating it so that I can continue to be a great resource for you and for the company. I think that's my initial reaction on how I would approach it. Now, I started this off by saying, how did they know that the boss didn't like this other person as well? So maybe there's some dynamics in there that a logical, straightforward, to the point solution might not work, but I feel like that's where I would probably start.
Yeah, I think that's a great starting point. And I think it's exactly because of that point where it says, I'm trying to find it, where it says, like, to make it more complicated, my actual boss doesn't like her either. So it almost sounds like they've tried to have this conversation, whether it's formally or not, right? With job description, maybe just sharing frustration to that leader. And it almost sounds like that leader was like, well, that's just how she is. That woman is what we're going to keep calling her, I guess. But that's just how she is. And you've just kind of got to deal with it. What do you do in that response?
Yeah, I think that's maybe a little bit more of a precarious situation, because if the writer's boss is also the boss of the person that's overstepping. Is that right? Did I read that correctly? But
So it sounds like she's
yes.
in a higher level, but she's not the boss.
Okay. Well, I think wherever you're taking to your boss, if there's traffic in the organization that's preventing you from doing the job that you're supposed to do, then your lead has to help clear that out. And if
Mhm.
they choose not to clear it out, and it might not be that this woman, right, is the direct report of the boss that the writer is going to, but there's a high degree of probability that the boss is probably at the same level as the boss of this person that's
Right.
interfering. And so they still have to do that backdoor or kind of back channeling work to make sure that those traffic barriers are cleared up. Whether they like this person or not is irrelevant. What's relevant
Absolutely.
is you hired me to do a job. I'm trying to do the job. If I've got barriers that prevent me from doing the job and I can't navigate around them, I need someone else who can help me clear those barriers. Um, the only other thing I would say, and this is a suggestion, not necessarily a tried and true method, is I wonder if the writer has tried to befriend the individual
Mm,
that keeps inserting herself into this person's
yeah.
work, and instead of being offended by it or being territorial about it, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that they are, but instead of taking defense to it, what if they tried to help this individual win as much as they possibly
Mm,
could? And in their interaction with this individual that was overstepping, instead of confronting the overstep, perhaps we could say, hey, yeah, look, that's clearly on my role and responsibilities. If you'd be willing to help, I'd be happy to take your help. That'd be totally fine with me. But I need you to understand this is going to reflect on me. So this is my project. This is my department. I would be delighted to have your help because you may have been here longer than I have different insight than I can offer. And how can I help you in
yeah.
what you're doing as well? So I don't, maybe just a few different ways to go about it there. So you've got the direct to boss approach to say, help me clear this path. And then you've got the direct to worker approach to say, you're welcome to help. This is my thing. I'd love to have your insight. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to make the final decision on it. And how can I help you in your work? I think those might be two different approaches that you
Yeah.
could consider taking.
Those are really good, and it's actually something I hadn't really thought about until you mentioned it, the getting to know them and understanding them a little bit better, like, not necessarily putting yourself in their shoes work-wise, but just
Yeah.
understanding them, because I think of a time where I had a coworker that I just didn't get. We were different personalities, we weren't meshing really well,
Yeah.
and it took we actually were at a big company thing outside of the workplace, and we sat down and people just started sharing like bits about their lives, and
Mm.
this person started sharing things like you would have no idea they had ever been through in their life at such a young age.
Yeah.
And just hearing all of those things, I walked away from that conversation and I never again approach things the same way with them because I just understood them more. I wasn't as quick to be frustrated when things started to happen. And this might not be that kind of situation, but putting yourself in their shoes a little bit and trying to just get to know them, understand what kind of personality type, what's leading this. Is it because the person that was in your role before you maybe didn't do those things?
Sure.
They don't have that level of trust there, giving them a little bit of grace in that situation. And then I think it is having that brave conversation, especially if you are newer and they are more established in the role. It's really scary to say, hey, I am owning this. I want to take
Yeah.
ownership of this. But to really stand up and do that is really important. I think you're right, especially if you've tried to go to your boss and haven't seen much progress. That's the only thing that's going to help you feel not trapped and just continually frustrated in this situation, no matter
Yeah.
how difficult it might seem up front.
Yeah. So I heard you say build a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Try to build that relationship bridge and see if that does any change or any good as well. So I think that's a great point. I think the only other thing I would say is in my own experience and probably a different person than what you're thinking of, but oftentimes when people that have been in an organization longer, they may have grown up with the organization and have done many different things within the organization before they landed on their current role. And so the hats that they have in their closet are hats that you might be wearing right now,
Right.
but they've worn them before and they may have experience in them. And so when they see a problem occur or a project as an opportunity, they might try to put that hat back on that's actually yours and it needs to stay in their closet. One of the things I found that is helpful to help those folks is over communicating, like wildly over communicating. Maybe not for everybody in the organization, but it might just be that this person needs to know, hey, these are the objectives, these are the projects, this is what we're doing, this is the progress, this is the next steps. And as long as and you might be like, well, they're not my direct report, I'm not their direct report, I get it. But sometimes when somebody's been there for longer, they might have a vested interest in the business that you have as well, but it comes across a little bit like they're trying to do your job for you, and that's not necessarily always the case. And sometimes I've found that over communicating with those people to help them feel comfortable and confident is sometimes all it takes to get them out of your space, if you will. So maybe that's a fourth option really that you could look at after that whole trying to create a relationship with them as well.
I think those are some great tangible steps they can take in kind of a sticky situation, right?
Yeah.
It was a very fun letter to read through, and that just, you can tell this person is very passionate about what they do and feeling those frustrations, which is something we can all relate to. We've all had those moments in different scenarios. I think a fifth one we'll throw out really quick here at the end is maybe just send her this episode of the podcast.
It'd be great.
Tell her she's that woman. Let it be open to interpretation. That's up to you. But
that's right.
Just a quick little bonus idea for you there.
I like it. I like it.
But Capable, thank you so much for writing in. I really appreciate that we were someone you thought of when you were facing the situation, and we don't take for granted that we get to do this and get to learn. I bring my notebook every time, and I have notes because I learn every time we talk about these things. So I really appreciate it. If you or someone out there wants to write us in that have your own story or something you just want to share with us, visit our website, launchpointleader.com. We've got a podcast page you can visit to see all of our episodes and then write us in on there. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.